The Akia Garnett Show. The Akia Garnett Show. Here to recreate. The Akia Garnett Show. Inspiring and power you. Giving you the tools to build your brand. It's a new day for a new way to bring your vision to pass. Another day here to recreate. The Akia Garnett Show. Teaching strategies that you need. Empowering you to succeed. She has a plan to help build your brand. Oh yeah. If you wanna go far, she'll take you from where you are. She's here to motivate, here to recreate. The Akia Garnett Show. Inspiration, motivation. The Akia Garnett Show. Recreation, reformation. The Akia Garnett Show. Dedication, expectation. The Akia Garnett Show.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Akia Garnett, your host for the Akia Garnett Show, and I am so pleased to be on with you today and this week as I welcome a great dynamite professional in supplier diversity, Mr. Darryl Hodnett. He is just an amazing person. He is actually the reason why I was able to move forward in supplier diversity with so much confidence and passion and vigor and excitement. It was early in the 2000s, I'd say around 2001 or 2 or 3, that I came upon a video that Daryl had recorded, and this video was creating and giving me some insight into supplier diversity as an industry and a bit of the history of supplier diversity as well. And this is a community that really didn't have a lot of documentation regarding the formal way to create greater procurement opportunities for minorities in business in the corporate environment. And so there was this great video for me to see and to study and to understand, and it helped me. It not only helped me to understand the ins and outs of the supplier diversity community, but it also gave me some sort of advocacy and passion for supporting the needs of minorities in business. Now, I had come from my own business in the past. My first passion in business was cosmetology. I used to own a hair salon, and back then we really didn't have access to persons on the corporate level who would provide information for us on how to broker deals and how to present ourselves appropriately to the corporate environment and supplier diversity. And so we're kind of on your own. And so reaching out and asking for help and then receiving the video that Daryl recorded was just wonderful for me. And I learned at that time the work that he was doing for Procter and Gamble and their supplier diversity community. I had also learned about the prior work he did for Procter and Gamble in advertising, and I was just so inspired. And so when I ran across Daryl later in my career, it was my pleasure, of course, to ask him if he would be a guest on the Akia Garnett Show to help saturate the message on what supplier diversity is all about, the history of supplier diversity, the stories that people may not know about regarding minority business owners who have done amazing things, and also minority business owners who have faced tremendous challenge by not being given an opportunity to sit at the seat of the table to present their wares in corporate America. I also want to spend some time talking to Daryl about the future of supplier diversity, what he foresees in supplier diversity, because there's a new concept on the table called inclusion. If you're following the supplier diversity community and dialogue globally, then you've seen this word inclusion bounced around quite a bit lately. And so that means that supplier diversity is expanding in concept. It's becoming bigger. It's becoming broader. And I think that Daryl will provide for us some insight as to what's happening. And so Daryl now is the Director of Supplier Diversity for the University of Missouri System. And we're going to talk about that as well. And I am so excited at this point to introduce to some and to reacquaint with others, none other than Mr. Darryl Hodnett. How are you, Daryl?
I am blessed and I am doing extremely well. Akia, how are you this evening?
I am just great. Thank you so much for joining me on the Akia Garnett Show.
Sure.
Great. So let's get started, Daryl. Let's just talk about what you're doing right now. You're with the University of Missouri System. What's that all about? And help us understand their supplier diversity system and how you're spearheading it.
Well, Akia, it's a little bit different than what I was doing at Procter and Gamble. You know, when I was at P&G, you're talking a national company, a global company, and so you're talking about trying to do the work on a very national basis. Here at the University of Missouri System, I'm really focusing in on supplier development in the state of Missouri and a couple states around it, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, but really in the state of Missouri as we try to develop and grow minority and women-owned businesses here to be able to compete and be part of the whole economic fabric, if you will, of the state. The Missouri System is one of the largest colleges in the country. We've got 4 campuses in the state. We have about 77,000 students. We're about a $2 billion a year economic engine industry, and it is incredibly important to the state of Missouri. The last thing about that, there is one heck of a great faculty that we have at our 4 institutions. And so, longer term, which is also why it was very important for me to come to Missouri and take this assignment, I think there's some supplier educational things that we can develop and improve upon here at the university, again, for suppliers here in the Midwest, specifically in Missouri.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I picked up was sort of an emphasis on construction. Is that right?
Yeah, we've had a huge emphasis on design and construction. We're a university. Like many universities, a lot of what you're doing is you're building new buildings. You are renovating buildings. We're an older university. There's lots of renovation that happens. And when you're dealing in construction, you're dealing in significant job creation, especially for people of color. And when you think about, the fact that we've got a couple of colleges in a couple of locations, St. Louis and in Kansas City, where you've got large numbers of minority people, then, the construction piece becomes important because you get to hopefully create some economic opportunities for some people to, expand their own pocketbooks. So that's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's very exciting. And, the university must be jumping for joy to have you on their team because you've just been around. You started, maybe you didn't start Procter and Gamble in 1976, but I know you were there in 1976, right? That was a very long time ago.
Oh, it was quite a bit of time ago, yes.
That was a long time ago, Daryl, and I didn't mean to put you out there in terms. I didn't mean to put your business in the street, but you were out there a long time ago, and so to bring all of that corporate knowledge with you and the amazing work that you've done in supplier diversity, I'm telling you that, I really, really study the work that you've done because supplier diversity is a very tight-knit community, number one. Number two, there are veterans that have been in supplier diversity like you since inception, really, when it became a real priority on the budget that line items in corporations. And there's just there's a small, tight number of veterans who are out there. And really, the industry and the knowledge base and source of information hasn't truly been documented. There's, just a small number of universities, namely Howard University, who's really doing some real curriculum development around supplier diversity and procurement and inclusion. But for the most part, it's still an under-researched and under-documented industry and knowledge base. And so for you to have put out that video in 2001 and began to help procurement and other diversity practitioners understand how to navigate this complicated yet very simple industry of supplier diversity was profound. And so, my question for you is what exactly can you tell us about the work that you've done at Procter and Gamble? Because you were there for quite a bit of time. You've made a tremendous impact. And I just want to know what your thoughts are regarding the time that you spent there.
Well, what I like to tell people is I had a variety of different careers at P&G. I was a marketer. I was a supervisor in the building services area. But mostly, I was a marketer for 10 years and, did supplier diversity for 15 years. And I have to tell you, first, I can't ever think of a better company to have worked for and to have been involved with when you think about things like values and things like, we're going to do things the right way because it makes business sense. Not just we're going to do business just for business sake, and it doesn't matter how we do it. We're just going to get it done. And so that was one of the things I think that for me led to helping to get that video created.
Yeah.
Because we were able to say we want to present a business case that not only P&G employees can get around, but industry as a whole, and start talking about if we do this and we do it the right way, we can really improve upon America's economy. Now, to be honest with you, Kia, there certainly have been and were people that, when you looked at the video, you probably got a little bit queasy because, we were really talking in real terms about economic disparity.
Yeah.
But we needed to talk about that to be able to tie it into, so why are you going to do supplier development for especially these minority-owned businesses?
Yes.
Well, it's about, the whole idea of including them into the pie so that they could become better consumers and more equipped consumers to buy all these wonderful things we have to sell in this country.
Yeah, precisely. And you know what? You're preaching to the choir because I'm truly an advocate, and I have you to thank for part of that. The video was more than objective in many ways, and it presented a very general overview of supplier diversity. So I didn't feel like I was looking at an infomercial or a very long commercial for Procter and Gamble's supplier diversity program. What I took away from that is that there is someone out there who is documenting and cares about knowledge exchange and supplier diversity, and that was something that I could hold on to. And again, because it had not been documented very well at that time, it really was one of the only solid resources, aside from some of the publications. I mean, I'm a writer for Minority Business Entrepreneur magazine. I'm a columnist for them. I've been writing for them for over 2 years now, reading the publication for many, many years. And so that has been a solid go-to source for supply diversity news as well. But in terms of corporations that are putting things out in a general way, I think that was definitely one of the staple resources that were out there. And so we're talking about this resource that was out there and may still be out there. And so I just want you to give an overview to people on what that video that you did in 2001 was all about.
Well, you know, the first and foremost thing when we got the agreement to get the funding from P&G to do it, we wanted to do a video because it was very visual. And if you think of Procter and Gamble or any packaged goods company, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, these are companies that are very visual. You know, if you think about commercials and how do they market, and that even runs the gamut of how do you talk to people internally. And so this was one of those great things where, you know, we've talked about supplier diversity for a long time internally, and we think people get it, but we really needed to show them in the way that they would understand it. And so that's really a big part of how this, you know, roughly 17 to 20 minute video got put together. And I have to tell you a couple of key things. The ability to go and sit with 7 different suppliers from around the country and to really talk with them in depth about their businesses, about what they thought, not just about P&G, but the business overall and their hopes and dreams as suppliers and some of the issues that they had as minority suppliers, and a lot of the positives, was one of the most fascinating things, I think, of my career. We had about 25 to 30 hours worth of tape that we had to cut down to the 15 to 17 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And that's
just awesome.
Yeah, and that is a true testament to the work that went on behind the scenes to create such a great product. And you were also involved in a 2003 production as well, right? What was that one all about?
Well, that one really got to the place of we wanted to, you know, we're a couple of years out from the original video that we did, and we now wanted to put something out there in video where we featured some of our own senior leadership. Mm-hmm. So it was more of a P&G commercial, but it was at that point that it was the first and only video that had been produced in which a major CEO was willing to, you know, talk unscripted.
Yeah.
And that's the key point.
Yep.
Talk unscripted.
Unscripted, yeah.
About supplier diversity. And so it really got down into A.G. Lafley's own values about diversity. You know, one of the guys that I've run across over time that values diversity, not just from the point of view about doing it because it's the right thing to do, but doing it because it makes business sense. Mm-hmm. And the key piece is when CEOs and senior leaders figure out that things make business sense, then they will act and behave in a way that says, you know, we will help you to do whatever it takes because we know at the end of the day it's the right thing for our business. And I think that's ultimately where you want to have supplier diversity. It's the right thing for my business. So I'm going to make the investment to do the things to make it work.
Yeah. And Daryl, so just for the sake of the audience who may not be as familiar with the history of supplier diversity in the industry, let's take them on a quick history lesson tour.
Okay.
And you're just the person to do it. So tell us, help us understand just how far supplier diversity in all of its forms has come.
Well, you know, if you kind of think about it, I kind of look back to, you know, public law, 95507 from the federal government. Mm-hmm. You know, back in the, you know, I call it the early 70s, which really kind of helped to, at least from the public policy place, put supplier diversity there for companies to really think about. But I would be remiss if I sat here and didn't, make some commentary about the big three automakers, Ford and Chrysler, and General Motors, and then three guys who I learned so much about this industry when I got into it. Ray Jensen, who might be the godfather of Supplier Diversity, Jim Conley at General Motors, and Ray was at Ford, and then Joe Harris at Chrysler. To see them and their companies get to the point as competitors and say, you know what, we've got to work together to help develop, specifically at that time, minority-owned suppliers, thinking about the city of Detroit, the poverty, we've got the 67 riots, we've still got boarded-up buildings, all sorts of things. But to look at how they started doing this work and then doing it together in many cases, it was the thing that for many of us really kick-started why Supplier Diversity made sense, especially as we were doing minority business development. But as time went on, Akia, you started to look at the landscape a little broader. So you had the automakers, Procter and Gamble, and a few other companies. Then you started saying, well, women are having some significant issues as well. And again, if I think about it from my business standpoint, you've got women who are, in many cases, the major purchaser in most households, and they comprise, over 50% of the U.S. population, which is a man. That's a good thing to hear. There are more women than men. So you then start to say, okay, well, we need to try to do some things in addition as well to increase some of the wealth to that population as well. And as I've looked around, you kind of say, we've got veterans now.
Yep.
We've had a number of wars that have gone on. And we've had people who've gone and fought for our country. And so we've got to now say, we've got to find some ways additionally to help them when they come home. If they want to start businesses, we've got to help them. And it's the right thing to do. And again, it also makes real good business sense as well. So Supplier Diversity has expanded and grown. It still has an awful long way to go, but we are, beyond. Back when I started doing this, we called it minority business development.
Yes.
We've really gotten into supplier diversity, or you kind of talked about it a little bit before, the whole idea of economic inclusion.
Absolutely.
And that is key and important.
Absolutely. And, more and more companies, it seems like it's a priority in some eras, and then in other eras, it's kind of like a second priority or a third priority. It takes like a tertiary or a secondary position on the budget. And to me, it appears as if, from all the research I do, it appears as if it really is resurfacing as a true need, and it's starting to make its own way to the table as a solid objective that always needs to be included every year in the business plan, not just a nice thing to do, not just community development, not just social responsibility, but it just makes good business sense. And, economically, it makes sense for an entire community to make sure that the business portfolio and makeup of suppliers who are supporting a company really and truly reflects the population of the community that they serve. And so, the industry and the small business community and majority business community have people like you in Supplier Diversity to thank for being such a wonderful and consistent and ever-present advocate. And so I just can't sing your praises enough, Daryl. I really can't.
I appreciate that.
Now, I want you to take us on a futuristic tour now. Did you ever watch The Jetsons?
I watched an awful lot as a kid. I always wanted to be Elroy.
Oh, no, you didn't. So take us on in George Judson's vehicle, or Elroy had a dog. What was his dog's name? Pluto or something like that. Astro. That was his name. Astro. Pluto was Mickey Mouse's dog. Yeah. So take us on a futuristic tour and tell us what you think the future of supplier diversity is, because companies and supply chains are a lot different than what they used to look like now, and they're more global, of course, but they're just different because of technology and the things that have helped us to expedite the production process for supplies and products and services. So help us understand what you foresee as a future trend in supplier diversity.
Well, the future trend is really here today, and actually has been here for quite a while now, I think. I mean, you've kind of said it as we talk about, it's not just procurement and purchasing anymore. It really is about supply chain. And if you want to do business with one of these large corporations, and it's not even just the large corporations anymore, you've got to be sophisticated in a way that you haven't been able to be sophisticated before. I mean, you've got to have scale. You've got to be savvy as a supplier. You've got to be able to understand who your customer is, and you've got to be able to understand where your customer is going in a way that you never could before. One of the things we really started doing a lot of, and I was hands-on on many of these things at P&G, was we started to create joint ventures and strategic partnerships. Now, I'll be honest, we stole the ideas from the automakers. It was, and they figured it out early on, that as their business was changing, they were going to have to change the way that they sourced suppliers, who then sourced parts, goods, services, etc. And so part of their whole thrust was, how do we get our key majority suppliers to really be partners with us in doing supplier diversity? And we all hear about Johnson Controls and my good buddy Reggie Layton and all those great people that have worked there. But like D&G, Johnson Controls has done this kind of work for a simple reason. Their customers asked them to do it, like they asked all the other ones, and they thought it was a good business opportunity, and it made good business sense, and they have done a number of those kinds of ventures over the years. And at P&G, we did a lot of the same kinds of things, because we understood that if we were going to have, specifically minority-owned businesses, be able to play at a large level, in many cases they were going to need to be paired up with, join up with, have equity infusion from different outside resources. And that is, I also think, a key place that a lot of these small businesses will have to go into the future. Think about who you can partner with. Doesn't mean that you have to partner with a majority company. You might partner with another MBE or a woman-owned business or a veteran-owned business. It may be a few of you that get together. It may also be, think about all of these minority and women who have worked in corporations for a number of years, who've walked away, and some of them have walked away with millions of dollars.
Yeah. Precisely.
Those are folks that can buy existing businesses. Okay.
Well,
So there's a variety of ways that I think supplier diversity is going to grow into the future. The last piece to that, though, is you've got to think about what the need is out there, and you've got to be able to anticipate it. If you want to be an IT supplier, there's a whole bunch of them that are out there.
Too many.
I don't think we necessarily need another one of them.
I don't think we need any more.
That's right.
I don't want to discourage anybody who's putting together they're putting a period on their last sentence of their business plan for IT. I'm not discouraging you. I'm just saying that you've got a lot of competition.
You've got a lot of competition, and if you think you have got the right idea, then keep going forward. To that point, I just had a visit a few days ago at Worldwide Technology, which is in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
Which for some people, for people out there, they may not know, they are a $5 billion a year African American owned company.
Yeah, thriving.
Let me just say that one more time. $5 billion in revenue.
Yeah, that's billion with a B, right?
That's billion with a B, yes. And it's Dave Stewart's company. He's done an incredibly great job, and they've got a great campus and all. But the key thing is they started as, for the most part, a computer reseller. Like, a number of companies will start, doing IT. But they figured out and they understood and they knew that they were going to have to expand and they were going to have to be ready to offer alternatives for their customers. And that's really what they've done. They're not just a reseller anymore. They're far more than that. I mean, they are a real technology partner for companies. They do logistics for companies like Dell and a variety of other corporations. The Supplier Diversity, Missouri. It is an incredible outfit.
Yeah.
And I can sit and tell you more examples as well.
Yeah.
But it really is, how do you figure out what the marketplace needs and how can you service it?
Yeah, and as this marketplace continues to shift and move into the future, I'm so glad you were able to share those tips with small business owners, entrepreneurs, MBEs, WEBs, everybody out there who may be operating from what they perceive as a disadvantage. But in actuality, it may actually be that advantage that will help them move their companies and their vision and mission to the next level of visibility. And so I really thank you for that. Now, one of the things that you said, which really caught my attention, was veterans, these champions in supplier diversity for corporations who've been there. And they have, like you, established great programs and have grown them, matured them, massaged them over the years, built relationships. And they decide that they are going to move out there on their own. They get bit by the entrepreneurial bug. And I think you know where I'm going with this, because I know you know where I'm going with this. Someone like you who was working for Procter and Gamble, who, as a child, I learned of this corporation. As a child, they already had brand recognition in my brain. And so for you to have landed such a great position and built a legacy for Procter and Gamble, and then decided that the entrepreneurial bug had really bitten you and you had to get out there and do your own thing, you put your parachute out the window and you jumped. And now you're working for the University of Missouri system. Tell me, Daryl, what's that all about? Because I see that you did an amazing thing by working so much with small business owners that you finally couldn't take it anymore and you had to do your own thing. But I know how some others may see that as kind of a blip. They may not understand it. So help us understand the transition that you have made in your career and why you did it.
Well, it might seem like a blip to some folks, but interestingly enough, as I saw mentors of mine within P&G and looked at other people who were in industry, it was like, it's time to go try something a little bit different.
Yes.
And I put in 30 years in one company. Again, a lot of different positions in a company, but 30 years. And so I walked into my boss's office one day. P&G had just bought the Gillette company for $55 billion. And when corporations buy companies, they start to figure out, okay, we're going to have to cut people, cut costs, do all those kinds of things. And I was not one of those people that would have been on the list to go, but I raised my hand and said, I kind of like to go.
I get 30 years and, you just say, hey, 30 years now. That's a long time.
Yeah, I said, I'd like that package over in the corner and walk away and try something different. And I was pretty transparent about it. And said, I want to go try some things while I'm still young enough. And, this just seems to be a real good opportunity. So a few months later, they came back, asked me one more time, are you sure you really want to go? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And so I walked away. Had a couple of people I'd been doing some kind of early developmental work with, and interestingly enough, we had an opportunity to form a company and to try to create a joint venture that would have been doing business for Procter and Gamble.
Yeah.
And it was to create a manufacturing facility in Cincinnati's empowerment zone, and we would have been creating non-woven material that would have gone into things like Pampers diapers and always tampons and things like that. We worked on that for about a year and a half, and it was a great process. We had a joint venture partner. They thought at first, well, maybe these guys really can't play. But when we came to the table with not only our own money, but we came with money from Huntington Bank, they said, oh, they can play. we can work with them. And I tell those stories, and you snicker a little bit, but it is also, I think, part of what you kind of go through, and people have to understand that you're very serious. Long and the short of it was, some business things kind of happened with P&G in that industry, and the deal and the whole project kind of fell after a year and a half. So we were bummed out about it, but we learned a lot of stuff. After a year and a half, and then one of the partners in that group and I put in a bid to try to buy P&G's Johnson Products Company, which they had put on the market. And for those that don't know Johnson Products, they produce things like Ultra Sheen and Afro Sheen and all those kinds of products. And we worked on that for about a year, and we put in a bid, and it was great. We recruited a CEO, all that kind of good stuff. But we fell short on the bid. They went with the high bid, and we just fell short. We just couldn't go any further. But the same kind of thing, we were able to get the financing that we needed. We had a great plan, and we just came up a little bit short. So I then worked on consulting for a while and did some family things with my 2 teenage boys. And about a year or so ago, I got the itch. I said, I need to go. One, I want to go back to work, and 2, I need to go back to work, and 3, I want to still do it in Supplier Diversity.
Yes.
And but I could be choiceful at where I could, what would come across my desk and where I could go. And the Missouri position made an awful lot of sense for me because of the whole education component I talked about before.
Yes.
Really doing something different that really has potentially a long-lasting, long-term benefit for minority and women-owned suppliers, as well as veteran suppliers, too. Can't forget them.
I love it.
And so that's why I'm back.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm telling you guys, listening to this production, that Darryl Hodnett is just an amazing professional. He has laid the groundwork, the foundation, a lot of the early information and education around supplier diversity and procurement for minorities and anybody who's operating from any societal definition of a disadvantage. He has certainly been of support and help to them. And I'm just so grateful, Daryl, that you've spent some time with me helping me educate small business and minority business community on supplier diversity, not just as, again, a social responsibility, but as a case for good business. It just makes sense. It makes sense. And so, Daryl, Tell us quickly about some of the things that you have going on at the program at the Missouri system, and then we'll just ask you for contact information before we wrap up and finish up today's discussion.
Well, the key couple of things that we've got going on. I guess the first is the university's had a pretty good Supplier Diversity program for a while. It was created by a woman named Jackie Kelly, who has since retired. And so, a lot of what I'm going to do is just kind of build upon what Jackie did. We've got an advocacy mentoring program that I have inherited here, where it's a little bit different. We take a minority or woman-owned supplier, a majority-owned company, and then a business professional from within the Missouri system, and we pair them together for 18 months in a mentor-protege relationship. So we're going to build upon things like that. We've created a roadmap with some targets and goals for increasing our spend. So we're going to build upon that. We're going to try to leverage supplier diversity as part of, I like to call it the go-to-market strategy of how do you ultimately recruit diverse students to come to your universities. Diverse students, or any students aren't going to think an awful lot about what we're doing in this area. They're thinking about where's the best party, who's going to give me the best, who's going to give me the best, who's going to give me the most financial aid, a whole bunch of other things. But you know what? If we do this work right, it may not be the student that makes the decision, but it may be the parent that we market to who says, gee, they really are thinking about, people that look like us. They really are thinking about how do they help, the community as a whole. That's a place I want to really encourage and send my kid to school.
Yeah.
That's the longer-term play here at the university that I'm trying to get established here.
That's great. That's great. And there's no secret, folks, that supplier diversity is all about leveling the playing field so that we can have a greater balance in majority society when it comes to poverty and decreasing it so that people get to live the American dream. And they get to still do that while they are practicing their passion. We shouldn't all have to choose a job based upon money. We should be able to find opportunities to practice and exercise our passion and maybe earn a real decent wage for it. And supplier diversity programs exist for that reason. They are doing that because it makes good business sense for them as a company. And so when you present your wares to them, it definitely has to make sense for what they do, what their mission is, where they're moving, and how you can play a part in that. So this is not a hand up at all. It's not a handout either. It is a business opportunity. And you are presented alongside competitors who may not be coming from a diverse background. And so you still have to present yourself, present your capabilities, present your abilities to manage projects and do so with effectiveness and efficiencies. And I'm just grateful that I had an opportunity to talk to you, Daryl, today. I'm going to re-invite you back sometime in the future to talk to us a bit more about what's happening in the University of Missouri system, and also to just keep us up to date on what's happening in the supplier diversity community as a whole. Trends come and go in supplier diversity, and the things that are solid tend to stick around. And those things that I believe that are solid is fairness and equality for all people in the economy, so that everybody gets a chance to play in the game of procurement and business. And so again, I thank you, Daryl. I thank you for your time today. I wish you so much success. I can't wait to see what other new production you're going to put out in the future. I know that universities are certainly going to be chomping at the bit to partner with the University of Missouri system, because if you're going to be behind anything that has to do with educating the masses on supplier diversity, then we are all in good hands.
Well, we're going to see how that all plays out, but I appreciate the work.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for your time today. Tell us how they can reach out to you on social media and on your URL for your website and so forth.
The easiest way is, it's a plug for the university, www.umsystem, as in University of Missouri System.edu.
Awesome.
And from that page, people can go to our Supplier Diversity website, and it's got a lot of information and data on it.
It sure does. I've been there all throughout the page, and I can certainly attest to what he just said. There's a lot of information there, so check them out, www.umsystems.edu.
Yep.
Thanks, Daryl.
Okay. Thank you very much, Akia.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for listening in to the Akia Garnett Show. Remember that we're on every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Visit AkiaGarnett.com to stay in touch with who's coming up as far as guests and also episodes and priorities that I'm focusing on each week. Remember also to think big.
Akia Garnett Show. Akia Garnett Show. Here to recreate. Akia Garnett Show. Inspire and empower you, giving you the tools to build your brand. It's a new day for a new way to bring your vision to pass. Another day, here to recreate. The Akia Garnett Show. Teaching strategies that you need, empowering you to succeed. She has a plan to help build your brand. Oh yeah, if you wanna go far, she'll take you from where you are. She's here to motivate, here to recreate. The Akia Garnett Show. Inspiration, motivation. The Akia Garnett Show. Recreation, reformation. The Akia Garnett Show. Dedication, expectation. The Akia Garnett Show.